Film review: The Story of Souleymane, directed by Boris Lojkine. Reviewed by Navid. Nikkhah Azad. In his uncertain regard competition titled The Story of Souleymane, Boris Lojkine portrays the story of an asylum seeker from Guinea who has 2 days to prepare for his asylum interview with OFPRA, the French Office for the Protection of Refugees and Stateless Persons. Souleymane, undocumented and working as a food delivery cyclist, pedals through the streets of Paris with a heart full of anxiety and worry. Struggling unsuccessfully to prepare for an interview that means life or death for him, he relies on a story he bought for his asylum application. The film opens with a scene of Souleymane among other refugees who have come to the OFPRA for their asylum interviews. This scene, which we see in full at the end of the film, is the final stop for any refugee seeking asylum in a European country due to life-threatening conditions in their countries. The sound design allows us to momentarily feel like we are in Souleymane's shoes, as if in a coma, with muffled ambient sounds, and we follow him with the interviewer, protection officer, to the fateful interview room. Abu Sangare, in the role of Souleymane, effectively portrays the naive Guinean refugee whose circumstances throughout the film make him anxious, fearful, and sometimes explosively angry. Although the massive influx of asylum seekers into Europe has created a serious crisis, leading to the implementation of strict laws to control the situation, the film addresses the issue of asylum without bias or prejudice, examining it from the perspectives of the asylum seeker, the government, and society. In his latest film, Boris Lojkine chooses a different angle on the sensitive subject, a man who has decided to lie. This choice is meant to provoke thought. In an interview, Lojkine explains that he wants to raise questions such as, does Souleymane deserve to stay in France? Should he be granted asylum? Do you think he is entitled to it? Does he deserve it? He states, I didn't want to write an exemplary tale, showing a good guy who struggles with an ugly immigration policy. This is too easy and it doesn't make you think. One of the underlying questions in the film concerning asylum is about the factors that have driven so many refugees to leave their families and homeland, seeking refuge in Europe as an ideal place and problem solver. Instead of imposing radical laws on refugees, perhaps the root causes that make someone an asylum seeker should be addressed. The film also touches on the exploitation of undocumented refugees who are not allowed to work. Souleymane is forced to work illegally from morning till night under someone else's identity, renting his identity, to afford fake documents and the story for his asylum application from an asylum broker. This is a small example of the hardships faced by refugees depicted in the film. One bold scene shows Souleymane with a broker, who instructs other Africans on what to say in their asylum interviews. The final scene of the film, depicting Souleymane's interview with a protection officer, is gripping and emotionally impactful. The interviewer corners Souleymane with questions, asking who wrote the story for him, as it has been repeated word for word in several interviews over the past week. We realize that Souleymane has lost the asylum race, but when the interviewer asks him to tell his true story and why he left Guinea, we learn about his real life and reasons for leaving. The reason Souleymane risked everything and endured misery in France with the hope of gaining asylum is so deeply human and filled with boundless love for his mother that it brings tears to our eyes and leaves the interviewer saddened. Boris Lojkine's direction is like a signature throughout the film. The screenplay by Delphine Agoud and Lojkine is original and authentic, and has a solid structure, and combined with the cinematography by Tristan Galland and editing by Xavier Siervin, it makes the story of Souleymane one of the impactful and thought-provoking films in the UN Certain Regard section of the world's most prestigious film festival.